The massive alien ship hung in space above Earth like a dark metal moon. Inside its cold corridors, Ambassador Sarah Chen walked between creatures that looked like they came from nightmares. Some had too many arms. Others floated in tanks filled with strange gas. One looked like a walking pile of rocks with glowing eyes. Sarah kept her face calm, but her heart was beating fast. She represented all of humanity today. The weight of 7 billion lives rested on her shoulders. The aliens led her to a huge room with a dome-shaped ceiling. 12 different creatures sat around a circular platform that glowed with soft blue light. Each one was more strange than the last. In the center stood the tallest alien Sarah had ever seen. It looked like it was made of living crystal. Light moved through its transparent body like colored water. When it spoke, its voice sounded like breaking glass. "I am High Arbiter Zelthon," it said. "I speak for the Galactic Hierarchical Council. We have ruled this galaxy for 50,000 of your years." Sarah nodded politely. "I'm Ambassador Sarah Chen. I represent the United Earth Defense Coalition." One of the other aliens made a sound that might have been laughter. It had the body of a giant insect with wings that buzzed softly. "Defense Coalition?" It clicked. "How amusing. You barely learned to fly between your worlds 50 years ago." Zelthon raised one crystal hand for silence. "Human Chen, your species has been observed. We have watched you grow from simple tool users to space travelers in just a few hundred years. This speed of development is concerning." "Concerning how?" Sarah asked. Another alien spoke up. This one looked like it was made of flowing water held together by a metal shell. "Most species take 50,000 years to reach your current level. Some take longer. A few never make it at all. Your rapid growth suggests instability." Zelthon continued. "Unstable species become dangerous. Dangerous species threaten galactic peace." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "What exactly are you saying?" Zelthon's crystal body pulsed brighter. "The Council has decided. Humanity will submit to our guidance. You will accept limits on your technology. You will move 90% of your population to agricultural worlds we will provide. Your military forces will be disbanded. Your scientists will work under Council supervision." The room fell silent. Sarah stared at the alien creatures around her. They all watched her with eyes that showed no emotion. To them, this was just business. "And if we refuse?" she asked quietly. "Refusal is not an option," Zelthon said. "Species that cannot be guided must be corrected. We have fleets that could turn your world to dust in minutes. We have weapons that could make your sun explode. We have technologies your people cannot even imagine." Sarah looked around the room again. These beings had ruled the galaxy since before humans learned to farm. Their ships were bigger than Earth's cities. Their weapons could destroy planets. By every logical measure, resistance was impossible. She thought about home, about her daughter playing in the park, about scientists working late in laboratories, trying to cure diseases, about artists painting pictures and musicians writing songs, about farmers growing food and teachers helping children learn. She thought about freedom. "I need to contact my government," Sarah said. Zelthon nodded. "You have 24 of your hours to consider our terms. But understand, Human Chen, this is not a negotiation. This is us being generous enough to give you time to accept reality." Sarah was escorted to a small room with a communication device. The aliens left her alone, confident that she would see reason. She activated the device and waited for the connection to Earth. President Martinez appeared on the screen, along with the other leaders of the coalition. "Sarah, what's the situation?" "They want us to surrender," she said simply. "Give up our weapons. Accept population controls. Move most of humanity off Earth. Submit to their rule or face destruction." The leaders talked among themselves for several minutes. Sarah could hear arguments in different languages. Some voices sounded scared. Others sounded angry. Finally, President Martinez spoke again. "Sarah, what do you think?" She was quiet for a moment. I think about what my grandfather told me. He fought in the wars before the coalition was formed. He said freedom isn't something you get given. It's something you have to keep earning. The aliens have ships that could destroy our planet, said Prime Minister Kumar from the Asian Federation. Yes, Sarah agreed. They're stronger than us. More advanced. They've ruled the galaxy since before we existed. Then maybe we should consider their terms, suggested Chancellor Beck from the European Union. Sarah shook her head. If we give up our freedom now, we'll never get it back. Our children will be slaves. Their children will be slaves. Is that the future we want? President Martinez was quiet for a long time. Then he smiled grimly. Sarah, you tell those aliens that humanity has a message for them. What message? No. When Sarah returned to the council chamber, the aliens were waiting. Zelthon's crystal body hummed with what might have been impatience. Have you reached a decision? He asked. Sarah stood straighter. Yes. Humanity respectfully declines your offer. The buzzing insect alien made that laughing sound again. Declines? You cannot decline. You have no choice. There's always a choice, Sarah said calmly. Zelthon stepped closer. Light flashed angrily through his crystal form. You do not understand what you are refusing. We offer you life under our protection. If you resist, you choose death. Maybe, Sarah said, but we choose it freely. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Galactic Council faced something they had never experienced before. A species that said, no. Zelthon stared at the small human woman standing before them. She looked so fragile compared to the mighty beings around her. Her species was young, weak, and outnumbered. By every measure of power in the galaxy, they should surrender immediately. But there was something in her eyes that made him uncomfortable. It was the same look he had seen in the eyes of persistence predators on other worlds, the look of something that would keep coming, no matter how many times you knocked it down. Very well, Zelthon said finally. You have chosen your path. We will show you the consequences of defying the Council. When your moon turns to dust, perhaps you will reconsider, Sarah nodded. Perhaps, but probably not. As she was escorted back to her ship, Sarah activated her communicator one more time. This is Ambassador Chen to Earth Defense Command. Message begins. They're coming. Activate Protocol Omega. Message ends. The war for humanity's freedom was about to begin. High Arbiter Zelthon stood in the command center of the massive Council dreadnought times Hegemony's Will *. Around him, representatives from 12 different species worked at control stations that hummed with alien energy. Through the huge viewing windows, he could see Earth hanging in space like a blue and white marble. The human vessel has departed, reported Counselor Vex High. The aquatic being floated in a water tank mounted on mechanical legs. Their ambassador has returned to the surface. Good, Zelthon said. His crystal body pulsed with satisfaction. Now we begin the demonstration. The Council fleet had arrived in Earth's solar system 3 days ago. 200 ships of various sizes and designs, representing the combined military might of 12 ancient species. Some ships looked like metal flowers with deadly petals. Others resembled giant sea creatures made of metal and energy. All of them carried weapons that could crack planets. I still do not understand their refusal, said Counselor Crix, an insect-like being whose forearms worked constantly at different controls. No species has ever rejected Council authority. It is impossible. Not impossible, corrected Counselor Threshak. The ethereal being was mostly energy held together by a containment field. Simply unprecedented. These humans clearly do not comprehend their situation. Zelthon nodded. Exactly. Once they see their moon destroyed, they will understand. Fear will make them wise. The plan was simple. The Council would target Luna, Earth's only natural satellite. The destruction would serve as a clear demonstration of power, while avoiding direct harm to the human population. It was a measured response, designed to inspire surrender rather than genocide. Fleet commanders report ready, announced Vex High. All weapons charged and targeted, added Crix. Zelthon raised one crystal hand. Begin the demonstration. Destroy the moon. Energy beams lanced out from the council ships. Plasma cannons, particle disruptors, and gravitational crushers, all focused on the small gray world that orbited Earth. The combined firepower could have shattered a small planet. The weapons struck an invisible barrier around Luna. Energy rippled across the surface of something that should not exist. The moon remained untouched. What happened? Zelthon demanded. The weapons impacted some form of energy shield, reported a technician from the Deepmaw species. The barrier is absorbing and deflecting our fire. Impossible, Crix buzzed. Humans do not possess such technology. Scan the barrier, Zelthon ordered. Identify the energy signature. 8. The results made the command center fall silent. The energy readings were familiar. Too familiar. It's our technology, Vexhai said quietly. Council shield generators. But the power output is wrong. It's been amplified somehow. Before anyone could respond, human communication signals flooded the Council fleet. The transmission came from multiple sources across Earth's surface, orbital stations, and space habitats that had seemingly appeared overnight. "This is Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth Defense Command," said a voice in perfectly clear galactic standard language. To the Council fleet. "We've been studying your garbage for 50 years. Did you think we wouldn't figure out how it works?" The transmission switched to a visual feed. A human woman in a military uniform stood in what looked like a massive underground facility. Behind her, technicians worked at consoles that displayed holographic images of Council ships. "We know about your standard operating procedures, Doctor," Tanaka continued. "Arrive in system. Issue ultimatum. Destroy secondary target as demonstration. Wait for surrender." Very predictable. Zelthon felt something he had not experienced in millennia. Confusion. "How do they have our technology?" Crix demanded. Dr. Tanaka smiled as if she could hear him. "Every species in the galaxy produces waste. Broken equipment, failed experiments, discarded materials. You dump it in designated systems and forget about it. We collect it." The view on the screen changed to show massive recycling facilities on asteroids throughout the solar system. Human workers and automated systems sorted through piles of alien technology. 50 years of reverse engineering, Dr. Tanaka said. 50 years of learning how your weapons work, how your shields function, how your engines operate. You taught us everything we needed to know by throwing it away. "This is impossible," Threshak said. "Our technology is beyond their understanding. We also monitored your communications, Dr. Tanaka continued. Your diplomatic frequencies are not encrypted. We listened to every council meeting for the past decade. We knew you would come. We knew what you would demand. We prepared." New signals appeared on the council sensors. Ships were powering up throughout the solar system. Not just around Earth, but hidden in asteroid belts. Behind planets, in the dark spaces between worlds. "How many ships do they have?" Vexhai asked. The sensor operator, a four-eyed creature from the Zephyr species, worked frantically at its controls. "Unknown. They are appearing on sensors continuously. Current count is 300 and rising." "That cannot be accurate," Zelthon said. 400, and still counting, the operator reported. The human transmission changed again. This time, it showed President Martinez standing in what appeared to be a war room filled with military officers from different Earth nations. "Council fleet," President Martinez said. "You came here expecting to find a primitive species ready to surrender. You were wrong about the primitive part. You were really wrong about the surrender part." New energy signatures appeared on the Council sensors. Orbital platforms around Earth were powering weapons that registered as modified Council technology. Ground installations across the planet activated energy shields and defense systems. "They've militarized their entire star system," breathed Counselor Crix. "Not just militarized," corrected Dr. Tanaka, her image returning to the main screen. "We've turned it into a fortress. Every asteroid, every space station, every orbital facility has been modified for defense. We've had 50 years to prepare for this moment. You cannot defeat us," Zelthon transmitted to Earth. "We have superior numbers and technology. Maybe, President Martinez replied. But we have something you don't. We have a reason to fight. This is our home. These are our families. Our children. Our future. How hard do you think we'll fight to protect that? The first human ships began moving toward the Council fleet. They were smaller than the alien vessels, but they moved in formation with military precision. More concerning, they moved in patterns that violated every standard tactical doctrine in galactic warfare. Their approach vectors make no sense, reported the fleet tactical officer. They are not following any logical attack formation. Because we don't fight like you, Dr. Tanaka said. We don't follow your rules. We make our own. Human fighters split off from their main formations and began harassing Council ships with hit-and-run attacks. They struck quickly, damaged what they could, and retreated before the larger alien vessels could respond effectively. This is not how space combat works, Crix complained. Tell that to them, Vex High said grimly. More disturbing reports came in from throughout the galaxy. Human signals had been detected in dozens of star systems, not invasion forces, but small groups of humans who had somehow reached distant worlds without Council knowledge. The Corvin Collective reports unusual human activity in their system, reported a communications officer. The Zephyrian resistance movements have been supplied with human technology, added another. How is this possible? Zelthan demanded. How did they spread so far without our knowledge? Dr. Tanaka appeared on screen one final time. We told you. We've been listening to your communications for 50 years. We know which species you've conquered, which ones serve you willingly, and which ones hate you. We've been very busy making friends. The Council fleet found itself facing not just human resistance in Earth's system, but coordinated uprising across multiple star systems. Species that had been conquered centuries ago were suddenly fighting back with human weapons and human tactics. This was planned, Zelthan realized. All of it. They knew we would come. They prepared for war. Not war, President Martinez corrected. Revolution. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Galactic Council faced an enemy that had studied them, prepared for them, and rejected their authority not out of ignorance, but out of deliberate choice. The demonstration of power had become a demonstration of human determination, and that determination was proving to be more dangerous than any weapon in the Council's arsenal. Captain Maria Santos gripped the controls of her destroyer Times, Indomitable Times, as it raced through the asteroid field outside Mars. Behind her, 3 Council cruisers followed in perfect formation, their weapons firing in coordinated patterns that had won battles for thousands of years. They're gaining on us, reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Park. Should we turn and fight? Maria smiled grimly. Not yet. First, we teach them why chasing humans through an asteroid field is a bad idea. She guided her ship between 2 massive rocks that spun slowly in space. The Council ships followed, maintaining their tight formation. It was exactly what Maria had hoped for. Now, she said quietly, hidden charges that her engineers had planted weeks ago exploded throughout the asteroid field. The ancient rocks cracked and split, sending debris flying in every direction. The Council ships, locked in formation, could not maneuver quickly enough to avoid the chaos. 2 of the 3 cruisers crashed into asteroid fragments. The third ship, damaged and alone, tried to retreat. It never made it. Human fighters swarmed out of hiding places among the rocks and destroyed it with focused fire. That's the 3rd Council patrol this week, Park said with satisfaction. Good, Maria replied. But we're just getting started. Across the solar system, human forces were fighting a war that confused and frustrated their alien enemies. The Council had expected traditional space combat. Large fleets meeting in open space, exchanging fire until one side was destroyed. Instead, humans fought like the persistence predators their ancestors had been. Admiral Zelthan reviewed the battle reports in his command center with growing anger. How many ships have we lost today? 17, reported Counselor Vex High. But the humans have lost 23. We are winning, are we? Zelthan asked. Yesterday we lost 15 ships. The day before, 12. Every day we lose more. The humans lose more than us each day, insisted Counselor Crix. Simple mathematics shows we will win. Look at the numbers again, Zelthon said coldly. 3 months ago, human forces numbered approximately 500 ships. How many do they have now? Vexhai checked the tactical displays. Current estimates suggest 800 ships. They are building faster than we can destroy them, Zelthon realized. Every ship we kill is replaced by 2 new ones. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a massive shipyard. Factories on Earth, Luna, Mars, and dozens of asteroids produced new vessels constantly. Even stranger, each new ship incorporated improvements learned from previous battles. Captain Santos demonstrated this when she led an attack on a Council supply convoy near Jupiter. Her new ship, Indomitable II*, moved faster and hit harder than its predecessor. When Council weapons destroyed it, she was already commanding times Indomitable III*. How do they build ships so quickly? Demanded Councillor Threshak during an emergency council meeting. They do not build ships the way we do, explained a tactical analyst from the Deep Maw species. Our vessels are works of art, crafted over years by master builders. Human ships are simple, functional, mass-produced. They can build 10 ships in the time it takes us to build one. But surely quality defeats quantity, Crick said. Not when the quantity keeps learning, the analyst replied. Each new human ship class incorporates lessons from previous battles. Their technology improves daily. The war was also spreading beyond traditional space combat. Human special forces appeared on Council worlds throughout the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as teachers. They showed oppressed species how to build improvised weapons, how to disrupt communication networks, how to make their rulers' lives impossible without direct confrontation. On the water world Aquatica, humans taught the enslaved deep-claw species how to poison the water supplies that Council overseers needed to survive. On the crystal planet Resonance, human engineers showed the native harmonics how to turn their natural sonic abilities into weapons. They are not trying to conquer our worlds, reported a Council intelligence officer. They are teaching rebellion. Teaching it how? Zelthon asked. They bring technology, tactics, and most dangerously, ideas. They tell enslaved species that freedom is possible, that rulers can be overthrown, that revolution can succeed. The concept of revolution was almost unknown in galactic culture. For 50,000 years, the Council had maintained order through overwhelming force and careful population control. Species that rebelled were crushed completely. The idea that resistance could actually succeed was infectious. Human tactics on the battlefield were equally disturbing to Council military doctrine. When Councillor Crix personally led a fleet to attack Earth's orbital shipyards, he expected the humans to defend their valuable infrastructure with everything they had. Instead, the humans let him get close. Very close. Too close. Admiral, reported his tactical officer, the shipyards are not defended. This could be a trap. Of course it is a trap, Crix replied. But we have superior firepower. Whatever they plan, we can handle it. He was wrong. As his fleet approached the shipyards, human engineers activated hidden charges throughout the massive structures. The shipyards exploded outward, sending chunks of metal and machinery flying in all directions. Several Council ships were destroyed instantly by debris. Others were damaged and left drifting. They destroyed their own shipyards to hurt us, Crick said in shock. Not destroyed, reported a human voice over the communication channels. Relocated. Quote, the pieces of the shipyards were not random debris. Human recovery ships moved through the wreckage, collecting specific components. Within days, new shipyards were operating from hidden locations throughout the asteroid belt. They turned their defensive infrastructure into weapons, Crix reported to the Council. Then they rebuilt it somewhere else. How do we fight enemies who can sacrifice anything to win? Human ground forces were proving equally frustrating. When the Council attempted to land troops on Mars to capture human facilities, they found that the humans had prepared for exactly that scenario. The Council forces were met not by human soldiers, but by automated defenses, booby traps, and environmental hazards. When they finally reached their targets, they found empty buildings. The humans had evacuated everything valuable and left behind unpleasant surprises. "The facility is rigged with explosives," reported a council ground commander. "Also gas traps, acid sprayers, and something that makes a very loud noise. Disarm them," Zelthon ordered. "We tried. When we disable one trap, it triggers 3 more." The humans appear to have anticipated every possible approach. This was the pattern everywhere. Humans did not fight the way civilized species fought. They used tricks, traps, and tactics that no honorable warrior would consider. When challenged to single combat, they sent multiple opponents. When offered traditional formations battle, they attacked supply lines instead. Captain Santos, now commanding Time's Indomitable V*, led the most frustrating human unit of all. Her ships never engaged in direct combat, if they could avoid it. Instead, they hit communication relays, fuel depots, repair facilities, and transport vessels. "Fight us properly," Crix demanded during one battle. "Why?" Santos replied over the open channel. "We're winning this way. This is not honorable combat. Honor is a luxury for species that want to go extinct," Santos said. "We prefer victory." That statement summed up human military philosophy in a way that terrified the Council. For 50,000 years, galactic warfare had followed established rules. Honorable combat between matching forces, formal declarations of battle, respect for enemy traditions. Humans ignored all of it. They fought to win, not to look good doing it. They used every advantage they could find, created advantages that did not exist, and turned their enemies' expectations against them. 3 months into the conflict, the Council controlled less territory than when the war began. Human tactics were spreading to allied species. Rebellion was breaking out across the galaxy, and every day, more human ships appeared in space, each one a little better than the last. Admiral Zelthon stared at the tactical displays and realized something terrible. The Council was losing a war against a species they had thought primitive just months before. Worse, the humans were teaching the entire galaxy how to win. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the hidden command center buried deep beneath the surface of Ceres. Around her, communication stations buzzed with activity as human coordinators managed operations across dozens of star systems. On the main screen, a map of the galaxy showed red zones where rebellions were active, green zones under human influence, and shrinking blue areas still controlled by the Council. "Status report," Elena said to her chief of operations. "Corvin Collective has achieved independence in their home system," reported Commander Nash. "The Zephyrians have liberated 4 worlds. The Harmonics successfully destroyed the Council mining platforms in their system." "Casualties?" Elena asked. "Surprisingly light on our allies' side. The tactics you developed are working. Hit the infrastructure. Avoid direct confrontation. Make occupation impossible." Elena nodded with satisfaction. This was what 50 years of preparation looked like. While the Council had dismissed humanity as primitive, human agents had been quietly making contact with every enslaved species in the galaxy. The initial contacts had been careful. A crashed human ship here, a lost exploration vessel there, always with plausible explanations, always with humans who seemed helpless and in need of rescue. The rescued humans would share technology, knowledge, and most importantly, ideas about freedom. "The Deep Claw have reported something interesting," Nash continued. "They found records in the Council archives on Aquatica. Documentation of species that resisted Council rule over the past 50,000 years. "How many?" Elena asked. "Over 300, Nash said grimly. "All listed as extinct or rear-located. But the records show what really happened to species that said no." Elena felt a chill. Genocide. Complete extermination in most cases. The few survivors were scattered to different worlds, their cultures destroyed. The Council has been doing this for millennia. This information would be useful for the propaganda campaign. Nothing motivated rebellions like proof that the alternative was extinction. On the other side of the galaxy, High Arbiter Zelthon was learning the same terrible truth from his own perspective. The Council emergency session had been called after reports came in from 17 different star systems. All showed the same pattern. Local uprisings, using human tactics and human technology. "The situation is worse than we thought," reported Intelligence Director Quill, a spider-like being whose 8 eyes moved independently as he processed multiple data streams. "Human agents have been operating in Council space for over 30 years. "How is that possible?" demanded Councillor Crix. "We monitor all traffic between star systems. They infiltrated using cover identities as traders, researchers, even refugees," Quill explained. "Small groups, never more than 5 or 6 humans per system. They integrated into local populations and began building networks." "Networks?" Vexhai asked. "Communication systems, supply chains, training camps. They taught local species how to fight asymmetric warfare. More dangerously, they taught them that rebellion could succeed." Zelthon reviewed the intelligence reports with growing horror. The humans had not simply prepared for war against the Council. They had prepared for revolution across the entire galaxy. Every oppressed species had been contacted, evaluated, and gradually brought into a massive conspiracy. "The scale is unprecedented," Quill continued. "They organized over 200 species into a coordinated resistance network. Each cell operates independently, but they share intelligence and resources." "What do they want?" asked Threshak. "The complete destruction of Council authority," Quill said simply. "They call it the Galactic Liberation Movement." The name was spreading across human communication networks. Elena Vasquez had coined it during a broadcast that reached every inhabited system in the galaxy. Her message had been simple but powerful. "For 50,000 years, 12 species have told the galaxy how to live," she had said. "They decide which worlds you can visit, what technology you can use, how many children you can have. They take your resources, your labor, and your freedom. They call this civilization." The broadcast had been transmitted simultaneously from hundreds of hidden stations. The Council had tried to jam the signals, but the humans had learned to use quantum entanglement communication from studying discarded Council equipment. "Today, we offer a different path," Elena had continued. "Not just for humanity, but for every species that dreams of self-determination. We will teach you to fight. We will provide you with tools. We will stand with you against tyranny." The response had been immediate and overwhelming. Species that had accepted Council rule for millennia suddenly began asking questions. Why should they accept limits on their technology? Why should they pay tribute to distant overlords? Why should their children serve alien masters? The rebellion spread through cultural exchange as much as military action. Human music, art, and stories carried messages of freedom that resonated with oppressed populations. Human scientists shared knowledge freely, showing other species that cooperation worked better than domination. On the crystal world Resonance, the native harmonics had spent centuries creating beautiful but harmless sound sculptures for their Council overseers. Human acoustics engineers showed them how to turn sound into a weapon. The resulting sonic bombardment shattered every Council installation on the planet in a single coordinated strike. "The rebels are not trying to defeat us militarily," Quill reported to the Council. "They are making governance impossible. Every world we control requires more resources to maintain order. Every species we police consumes more of our fleet. Then we crush them completely," Crick said. "As we have always done." "With what ships?" Zelthon asked coldly. "Half our fleet is engaged with human forces in their home system. The other half is scattered across the galaxy putting out rebellions. And we are losing both fights." The numbers were undeniable. Council forces were stretched beyond their limits. Every day brought new reports of uprisings, sabotage, and military defeats. The carefully maintained order of 50,000 years was collapsing. "There is another problem," Quill added reluctantly. "Some of our member species are reconsidering their allegiance." "Impossible," Threshak said. "The Council species are civilized. They understand the benefits of our system." "The Ethereals have withdrawn their fleets from active combat," Quill reported. "They claim to be reassessing the situation. The Deepmaw have recalled their forces to defend their home systems. 3 minor council species have declared neutrality. Zelthon felt his crystal form dim with despair. The council had maintained unity through shared superiority over lesser species. If that superiority was in question, what held them together? The answer came from an unexpected source. On the waterworld Aquatica, the enslaved Deepclaw had found something in the council archives that changed everything. Ancient records from the early days of the council. When it was formed to face a galactic crisis, the records showed that the council species had not always been dominant. 50,000 years ago, they had been refugees themselves, fleeing from an enemy that had destroyed their original civilizations. In desperation, they had united to survive. But that enemy was long extinct. The crisis was over. The council had continued ruling not because it was necessary, but because it was profitable. The humans have broadcast this information across the galaxy, Quill reported. They are calling the council species hypocrites, who forgot their own history of struggle. Elena Vasquez had personally delivered the broadcast. Standing before the recovered archives, she spoke directly to the council species. Your ancestors knew what it meant to lose everything, she said. They understood the value of freedom because they had lost it. They fought to survive, to rebuild, to create something better. She held up a crystal data storage device. These are their words, their hopes, their dreams of a galaxy where species cooperated instead of dominating each other. The camera panned across ancient documents written in scripts from 12 different council species. All told the same story. People who had lost everything, working together to build something new. You were once like us, Elena continued. Desperate, outmatched, fighting for your right to exist. The difference is that we remember what we are fighting for. You have forgotten. The broadcast ended with a simple message. It is not too late to remember. Across council space, members of the ruling species watched the broadcast and saw their own history reflected back at them. Some were angry at the manipulation. Others were thoughtful. A few were ashamed. In the council chambers, the debate raged for hours. The humans are manipulating our history for their own purposes, Crix argued. Are they wrong, though? Asked Vexhai quietly. Have we become what we once fought against? We brought order to chaos, Zelthon insisted. We created civilization. We created an empire, corrected Threshak. And empires always fall. The argument continued. But the damage was done. For the first time in millennia, the council species were questioning their own mission. Meanwhile, human agents across the galaxy continued their work, teaching other species that freedom was not only possible, but achievable. Dr. Elena Vasquez looked at the galaxy map one more time. Red zones outnumbered blue zones now. The rebellion was winning. Ma'am, Commander Nash said quietly, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. High priority. Elena accepted the communication. President Martinez appeared on the screen, looking tired but determined. Elena, it's time for Phase 3, he said. Elena smiled grimly. The council thought they had seen the worst of human planning. They were wrong. The real war was about to begin. High Arbiter Zelthon sat alone in his private chamber aboard the last council stronghold, the Fortress Station Times Final Authority *. His crystal body had lost much of its inner light over the past year. Stress fractures ran through his transparent form like scars of defeat. Outside his window, the galaxy burned with rebellion. Red warning lights on the tactical display showed over 300 systems in open revolt. Blue areas marking council control had shrunk to fewer than 50 worlds, mostly the original homeworlds of the council species themselves. A soft chime indicated an incoming communication. Counselor Vexhai's image appeared. The aquatic being looking as exhausted as Zelthon felt. The harmonics have taken the resonance system, Vexhai reported. Our forces there have surrendered. That makes 17 fleets that have given up rather than fight. How many ships do we have left? Zelthon asked. Across all systems? Perhaps 200 vessels. The humans and their allies field over 4,000 ships now. Zelthon closed his eyes. 200 ships to hold together an empire that had once commanded 10,000. The mathematics of defeat were inescapable. There is more, Vexhai continued. The Ethereals have formally withdrawn from the Council. They are offering to mediate peace talks with the humans. Peace talks, Zelthon said bitterly. They want us to surrender. Perhaps we should consider it, Vexhai said quietly. The war is lost, Zelthon. We all know it. Before Zelthon could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the station. He activated the tactical display and felt his crystal core grow cold. A human fleet was approaching Time's final authority asterisk, not attacking yet, but clearly visible and growing larger. Incoming transmission from the human fleet, reported the communications officer. Put it through, Zelthon said. The image that appeared was familiar. Ambassador Sarah Chen, the human who had first said no to the Council over a year ago. She looked older now, with lines around her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and difficult decisions. She wore a military uniform and stood on the bridge of a ship that was obviously of human design, but incorporated technology from dozens of different species. Hi, Arbiter Zelthon, Sarah said politely. I'm now Admiral Chen, of the Galactic Liberation Fleet. We need to talk. Come to gloat over your victory? Zelthon asked. Come to offer you terms, Sarah replied. The same courtesy you once offered us. Within the hour, Zelthon found himself in a conference room aboard Sarah's flagship. The human admiral sat across from him at a simple metal table. 2 guards stood nearby, but they seemed more ceremonial than necessary. You know why I'm here, Sarah said without preamble. To demand our surrender, Zelthon replied. To offer you a choice, Sarah corrected. The same choice you offered humanity. Except our terms are more generous than yours were. She activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. The red zones, representing free territories, now covered over 80% of known space. The Council is finished, Sarah said simply. Your member species have either abandoned you or are fighting among themselves. Your fleets are defeated. Your authority is gone, but you still have a few dozen worlds and a handful of ships. What do you want? Zelthon asked. Complete dissolution of the Galactic Council, Sarah said. Recognition of the sovereignty of all sapient species. Acceptance of the new Galactic Confederation based on equality rather than hierarchy. And if we refuse? Sarah's expression was sad but determined. Then we finish what you started. But I hope it won't come to that. Zelthon studied the human across from him. A year ago, she had been a simple diplomat representing a species the Council considered primitive. Now she commanded fleets that could destroy the Council's remaining worlds. Your revolution has killed millions, Zelthon said. Your empire killed billions over 50,000 years, Sarah replied. We found the record, Zelthon. Every species that resisted. Every world that was cleansed. Every culture that was erased. The Council's hands are not clean. She was right, and Zelthon knew it. The Council had maintained order through fear and violence for so long that they had forgotten any other way to govern. What happens to us if we agree? Zelthon asked. You join the Confederation as equal members, Sarah said. Your species have knowledge and experience that would benefit everyone. But you don't get to rule others anymore. And if our people refuse to accept this, then they can leave Confederation space, Sarah said. Find some empty system and build their own society. But they can't force others to serve them. Zelthon considered this. It was more generous than the Council had ever been to defeated enemies. Throughout their history, resistance had meant death or slavery. The humans were offering exile or integration. There is something else, Sarah said. We've been monitoring communications from your remaining fleets. Your own military commanders are losing faith. How many more defeats before they stop following orders? She was right about that too. Reports came in daily of Council ships refusing to engage human forces. Some had simply stopped fighting. Others had defected entirely. Why are you offering this? Zelthon asked. You could destroy us completely. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Because someone needs to break the cycle, she said finally. For 50,000 years, the strong have ruled the weak in this galaxy. We could do the same thing. Become the new council. Rule through fear and force. But you won't? We won't, Sarah confirmed. That's not the kind of future we want to build. Zelthon felt something crack inside his crystal form. Not a physical fracture, but something deeper. For the first time in his long life, he was speaking to someone who had won completely, but chose not to use their victory for conquest. I need to consult with the other council members, he said. Of course, Sarah agreed. You have 72 hours to decide. The timeline was deliberate, Zelthon realized. The same amount of time the council had given humanity to surrender. The irony was not lost on him. Over the next 3 days, the remaining council members debated endlessly. Some wanted to fight to the end. Others argued for accepting the human terms. A few suggested trying to negotiate better conditions. But the reports kept coming in. The Deep Maw had declared independence and joined the Confederation. The Zephyr species had recalled their fleets to defend their homeworld. Even some ethereal factions were talking about making separate peace with the humans. On the final day, Councillor Crix made the argument that convinced the others. Look at what they accomplished, he said, his insect wings buzzing with agitation. They went from primitive spaceflight to defeating us in just 50 years. They united hundreds of species that had never cooperated before. They built a coalition based on shared values instead of conquest. Your point? Asked Threshak. Maybe we were wrong about them, Crix said simply. Maybe we were wrong about everything. The vote was close, but the decision was made. Zelthon transmitted the council's acceptance to Admiral Chen. The ceremony took place in neutral space, aboard a station built by cooperative effort between dozens of species. Representatives from across the galaxy watched as Zelthon formally dissolved the Galactic Council and signed the Confederation Charter. The Council has maintained order for 50,000 years, Zelthon said in his final speech as High Arbiter. But order without justice is just another word for oppression. Today, we choose a different path. Admiral Chen stood beside him. No longer the nervous diplomat who had first refused Council demands. The Confederation is not perfect, she said. We will make mistakes. We will have disagreements. But we will face them together. As equals. Sin. After the ceremony, Zelthon found himself alone with Sarah on the observation deck of the station. Through the transparent walls, they could see ships from hundreds of different species moving in peaceful formation. Do you regret it? Sarah asked. Giving up your power? Zelthon was quiet for a long time. I regret how long it took us to understand, he said finally. Your species taught the galaxy something we had forgotten. What was that? That cooperation is stronger than domination, Zelthon said. That freedom shared is more powerful than authority imposed, Sarah nodded. It took us a long time to learn that too. We had to nearly destroy ourselves before we figured it out. The Council ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years, Zelthon said. How long do you think this confederation will last? Sarah smiled. I don't know. But it doesn't matter if it lasts forever. What matters is that we try to build something better. I do. She paused and looked out at the diverse fleet surrounding them. Besides, if it fails, someone else will try something different. That's what freedom means. The right to keep trying until you get it right. Zelthon felt his crystal form brighten slightly. For the first time in decades, the future seemed uncertain but hopeful. A year later, Zelthon served as an advisor to the Confederation Council, helping new member species navigate the transition from authoritarian rule to democratic participation. He found the work challenging but rewarding in ways he had never experienced during his time as High Arbiter. The Galactic Liberation Movement had become the Galactic Cooperation Initiative. Instead of forcing others to submit, they taught them to contribute. Instead of extracting tribute, they facilitated trade. Instead of imposing order, they encouraged growth. It wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts, misunderstandings, and failures. But there was also something the galaxy had not seen in 50,000 years. hope that tomorrow could be better than today. The Council had ruled the galaxy for 50 millennia. It took humanity 53 months to prove that no one should rule anyone. And in learning that lesson, the galaxy discovered something even more valuable: that creatures working together could accomplish things that no single species could achieve alone. Even humans,